Hey ESM, it's Pastor Lee.
Hey, it's Meredith.
Hey guys, it's Lauren.
Hi, I'm Eli. I'm Jake.
Welcome to ESM.
Welcome to ESM Sports Center, Youth Center.
And welcome to ESM.
So excited to have you join us tonight.
Speed the Light. It's not just a fundraiser, it is an opportunity to end injustice. We can engage in the global mission of God through generosity and compassion. It is essential for missionaries to go. It is life-changing when they communicate the gospel. Speed the Light makes transportation and communication possible. Join us as we crack open God's inspired scripture and consider what it means for us to be gospel-centered, spirit-empowered, and personally responsible for the mission of God, until all know.
Hey ESM, we are so excited to have you join us tonight. Welcome to ESM Sunday Night Youth Service. I have a few announcements before we get started tonight. I just wanted to let you know that we will not be going to camp this year. I did send out a message to you all, but just in case you haven't seen it and you're just now hearing about it, our district sent us a message and let us know that they are deciding to not do camps this year. I know that is devastating. I know that it's sad, and I am very sad. However, I do know that God is not just at camp. He is in our everyday life, and I know that God is going to do big things in your life and our group this summer. So be ready for what God's going to do. In fact, God is moving in your life right now. So don't be sad that we don't get to go to camp, but be excited about what God has in store for you. I'm so happy that you joined us tonight. In fact, we're going to start a new series called Until All Know. It's going to be about Speed the Light. We've been talking about Speed the Light a lot lately, but here's the thing. Sometimes I feel like we think it's a fundraiser more than just understanding the heart behind Speed the Light. Why do I need to give? Why has God called me to give? What does this even mean? So we're going to do a 4-week series talking about Speed the Light, and we are calling it Until All Know. How about you check out this Speed the Light video now?
For the world, like it's passionate. Rhymes for your mind, kinda hazardous. A man came from Nazareth, and that they labeled average. Born with a star in the sky, just like an asterisk. Took the change for you and I, boom, then he shattered it. But sin is a labyrinth, no hopes of getting out of it. Man, can you fathom it? It sounds quite elaborate, but there's a rope and a ladder to pull you out of it. Any place I can cope, it's no matter just how bad it get. We all shattered and battered and broken down and sick, tattered heads battered, walk around like we out of it. Yeah, my Lord is coming back just to grab his kids. When he returns to the earth, he'll establish it. Come on, I keep shining like a diamond, cause they lost up in the darkness. They don't know what to do to get about it. So I'ma tell them all about it. You know what I'm trying to accomplish? how to get you through the nonsense. So we tell them all about it.
Each one of us has the opportunity to be involved in what God's doing through Speed the Light. I hope that through this service, God speaks to your heart and He shows you what this is all about. But before we start into our sermon, I would love for you to join us in worship. Make this moment a holy moment between you and God. Think about the words, worship in your room. Give Him the glory for these next couple of minutes. Let's worship God together now. As I said before, we are starting a new series called Until All Know. And this week, we're talking about what God can do with little. So we talk about Speed the Light all the time. And I keep talking about how you can do a 1 in 1,000. You can bake cookies. You can sell bracelets. And just talking about small things that you can do. But you might be thinking, Pastor Landley, how is that going to even make a difference? We're going to look at a couple Bible stories today and just see how little made a huge difference in other people's lives. Starting out in John, we're going to look at the feeding of the 5,000. Now, I know that you probably have heard this story, but in case you haven't, Jesus is teaching, and as he's teaching, he's gathering these large crowds. And so his disciples come up to him and they are like, Jesus, how are we going to feed all of these people? We have nothing. Do you expect us to feed? And we're going to go ahead and start right in here, right at that moment, all right? In verse 4, it says, now the Passover, the feast of the Jews, was at hand. Verse 5, lifting up his eyes then and seeing that large crowd was coming toward Jesus, he said to Philip, where are we to buy bread so that these people may eat? He said this to test him, for he himself knew what he would do. Philip answered him, 200 denarii worth of bread would not be enough for each of them to get a little. One of his disciples, Andrew Simon, Peter's brother, said to him, there is a boy here who has 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. But what are they for so many? Jesus said, have the people sit down. Now there was much grass in the place, so the men sat down, about 5,000 in number. Jesus then took the loaves, and when he had given thanks, he distributed them to those who were seated. So also the fish, as much as they wanted. And when they had eaten their fill, he told his disciples, gather up the leftover fragments, that nothing may be lost. So they gathered them up and filled 12 baskets with fragments from the 5 barley loaves left by those who had eaten. When the people saw the sign that he had done, they said, this is indeed the prophet who is to come into the world. Perceiving then that they were about to come and take him by force to make him king, Jesus withdrew again to the mountain by himself. Okay, there's a couple things I want to look at here. At the very beginning, they have an issue, right? They are asking God, how are we going to feed these people? What are we going to do? And they have nothing in their hands. But they find a boy. They find a boy with 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. That's not much, right? He didn't have even close to enough to feed 5,000 men. But he gave what he had. He gave what he had to them, and the Lord multiplied it. What's even cooler about this story is that they said about 5,000 men. And those times they would really only count the men. So that could mean that there was potentially wives, kids. This makes this miracle even so much bigger than what we even read, because there's so many more people. But you might still be skeptical. You might be asking, well, that happened in the Bible. Doesn't mean that it's going to happen for me, right? Will God do it again? Would he choose me to do that with? Did you know that God looks at our heart more than he looks at the offering? He looks at what we're sacrificing more than the amount that we're giving. In fact, there's another story in Mark chapter 12 in verses 41 through 44. It says, and he sat down opposite the treasury and watched the people putting money into the offering box. Now, when they say he, they're talking about Jesus. Many rich people put in large sums, and a poor widow came and put in 2 small coins, which make a penny. Just a penny. 2 small coins that make a penny. And he called his disciples to him, and he said to them, truly I say to you, this poor widow has put in more than all those who are contributing to the offering box. For they all contributed out of their abundance, but she, out of her poverty, has put in everything she had, all she had to live on. So, when you're thinking about giving, it doesn't matter how much you have. What does matter is that you're being obedient to God, that you're doing what He asked you to do. Because if you're not doing what He asked you to do, then that means you're being disobedient, right? And if we're being disobedient, are we really in right standing with God? No. But good news, you can be. And all it takes is just for you to do what He's called you to do. It doesn't matter what you feel like you can do. In fact, great example is Meredith. She sold cookies for Valentine's Day and made like $200. She took what she had and she used it to help raise money for Speed the Light. Another example, Michaela. She's doing DoorDash. And I know a lot of you guys probably can't do that. However, she's using what she can to raise money for Speed the Light. You could do a race like I was planning on doing for Tough Mudder this year. I'm getting pledges to do so. And now I am working on another project. Hopefully I can get it put together to be able to do that. If not, God will give another opportunity for me to give money to Speed the Light. But I do know somebody back home that has raised thousands of dollars for Speed the Light by running Tough Mudders. And because of that perseverance, it encouraged me to do the exact same. With your obedience to what God's called you to do, you can encourage your friends, you can encourage those around you to give what they have to Speed the Light. Did you know that every time you give to Speed the Light, you are helping the gospel, God's word, being spread throughout this whole world? And because of your obedience, you are a part of it. You get to be a part of people coming to Christ. How amazing is that? And yeah, we might not feel like we have a lot to give, or we might not feel like we really did much. But just giving $5 or just giving $1, if that's all that you have, you are still a part of something bigger than yourself. So don't be discouraged, but be encouraged that God can use what you have, even if it's just a little bit. God can multiply it, and He can use it to do big things through you. I believe in you. I am on your team, and I'm supporting you, and I'm cheering you on. But just as much as I am doing that, God believes in you. And He believes in you so much more, and He has faith in you so much more. I can't wait to see what God does through you. But as we end tonight, we're going to go ahead and look at a video of a girl that gave 57 cents and what God did with just 57 cents. Hopefully that encourages you to give to Speed the Light, to be a part of something bigger than yourself. Check out this video now.
At the turn of the 20th century, a little girl named Hattie Mae Wyatt stood outside a small church after she had been turned away because it was too crowded. The pastor happened to walk past and heard her crying. Her clothes were torn and tattered, and it was obvious that she came from a poor home. She wasn't the typical person to attend such a prestigious church. The pastor personally walked her to the Sunday school room and placed her in a seat. The young girl had the time of her life and went to bed that night thinking about all the children who had no place to worship Jesus. Sometime later, the little girl's body was found lifeless after poverty and illness had taken their toll. After the young girl's funeral, her mother told the pastor that her daughter had been saving up for a church building fund. She handed the pastor 57 cents. This was her offering of love, 57 cents. This little girl's actions showed that she understood the generosity of Jesus because she gave so that others could meet Him. The pastor was touched by the faith and compassion of someone who could have excused her gift as too small or claimed she had nothing to give. The pastor shared this story with his church and the owner of a nearby property. The actions of the young girl moved the congregation to immediately begin giving to the same cause. The little girl's generosity moved the heart of the landowner, and he offered his land to the church for a reduced price. When the first payment came due, he said that it only need be the change left by the small girl. Hattie's small gift was the beginning of what is now Grace Baptist Church, the Samaritan Hospital, and Temple University. While Hattie's gift may have been small, the impact was enormous. She chose to set aside her wants and trust that even the smallest gift can make a difference. We too can learn to trust God by giving of our resources. It's then that we find our heart in alignment with the heart and mission of God, until all know.
It's crazy what God can do just through our obedience. And like I said before, God looks at your heart, not about the amount, but just the fact that you want to serve Him, that you want to be kingdom-minded and be a part of spreading the gospel to those around you. We're going to end tonight with a worship song. I hope you guys join in with us now. Thank you, ESM. I'm so happy that you joined us tonight. Go ahead and click on the Zoom link that I sent you in Remind, and we'll go ahead and get started in our Zoom meeting. And I can't wait to see you next week.